Hello and welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial I will show you how to create a chevron bracelet, a friendship bracelet, using these yarns. So I took about 60 inches length of yarns, and the first step will be to create a loop. I will create a loop by making an overhand knot at this end of my bracelet. This way, like this, and I will take the clamp and grab the end of my bracelet like this, and now I will separate the yarns. The order of the colors will be placed in the mirror. So I put the pink, green and blue on this side, and on the opposite side I will order the colors in the opposite order, so in the mirror. So if you separate the yarns, you will see that this part mirrors the other part. On this side, on these yarns, we shall make forward knots, moving the yarn from this point to the middle. On this other side, we shall make backward knots, which are the knots, the same knots as the knots on this side, but in the mirror. So forward knots on this side, backward knots on the other side. A backward knot will move this yarn backward until it gets here in the middle. And let's begin by making, as I already told you, forward knots. To make a forward knot, you create a 4. So as you can see here, the two yarns create something that is similar to the shape of a 4. Now I will grab the pink yarn and take it out through the loop of the 4 that I have created, and make two knots, two forward knots, one and the second. So I made two forward knots on the green yarn with the pink yarn. So as you can see, the pink yarn went forward from here to here. Now I will create two forward knots on my blue yarn. So I make the 4 like this. Through this loop here of the 4, I take out the yarn and I make one forward knot and another forward knot, like this. And as you can see, initially my pink yarn was on this side, and now it has moved to the center here. Now I will make backward knots with the pink yarn on the other side. A backward knot creates also the number 4 like this, but in the mirror. And through this loop I will take the yarn, the pink yarn, and I've created one backward knot and another backward knot, like this. And now I will do the same thing with the blue yarn. I will create one backward knot and another backward knot on the blue yarn. And as you can see, my pink yarn went backwards from this place to the center here. And now, in order to create the first chevron, in the middle with these two yarns we can make two forward knots, two backward knots, or we can make a forward and a backward knot. So I will make two forward knots. So in the middle you can use either type of knot or knot combination. And now, as you can see, we have created our first chevron. And now let's continue with the green yarn, using the same rules, following the same steps. So forward knots on this side, backward knots on this side, and in the middle either two forward knots or 2 backward knots or a forward and a backward knot. So I make 2 forward knots on the blue yarn with the green yarn to create a, now we shall create a green chevron because we use the green yarn. 2 forward knots on the pink yarn, 1 and 2, like this, and I have brought the green yarn to the middle. I take the other green yarn and make 2 backward knots on the blue yarn, 1, 2, and 2 backward knots on the pink yarn, 1 and 2. Now I brought the green yarns in the middle and I create 2 forward knots with the green yarn, 1 and 2, and as you can see, the second chevron, the green chevron, is also ready. And now let's make a blue chevron with the blue yarn. So 1 knot, the second knot on the pink yarn, two forward knots on the green yarn. I brought the blue yarn in the middle, and now let's use the blue yarn on the other side to make 2 backward knots. 1 backward knot, the second backward knot, and on the green yarn 1 backward knot, the second backward knot, and the blue yarns are in the middle, and I create 1 forward knot and a second forward knot. And as you can see, we have a red chevron, a pink chevron, a green chevron, and a blue chevron. And now I will continue making chevrons with these yarns using the same rules that I have used when I created these chevrons until I create the entire bracelet. And then I will show you how to create the bracelet tie, because in order to close the bracelet we need a tie that will go through our loop. So let's continue using the same steps to make the bracelet. And now that I have finished the bracelet, I will also create the bracelet tie. I will separate the yarns, and I will take 3 of the yarns and start braiding. So this way. And I will continue braiding until there is no more thread left. Now I have braided both ties and I will create the knot. So I have this shorter yarn in the middle, and with the longer yarns I will make a knot. And two more knots on this side. Now I will cut the yarns this way, and I have finished one of the ties, and I will do the same steps on the other side. This way I make a knot so that the tie doesn't open anymore. I cut the yarn this way, and now both our ties are ready. And now let's see what our bracelet looks like. So this is the finished bracelet, and let's see what it looks like on the wrist. So I will put the tie through the loop, put the bracelet on the wrist, and this is my finished chevron bracelet. So I hope you liked this tutorial, and thanks for watching.